Hi, this is Jenny Williams. I'm coming to you live this afternoon from My Therapy NYC. I'm a psychotherapist here. We are a counseling and wellness practice here in New York City. We offer individual, couples, and group counseling. And we also do wellness workshops and provide resources. So welcome. This is my very first webinar for My Therapy NYC. So I'm super excited. I'm glad you can join me. The webinar today is entitled Hooked on the Internet, How to Stay Happy, Focused, and Productive in the Age of Digital Distraction. So why the subject? Why the internet? I'm going to date myself now. I don't mind, I'm going to do it for you. I'm an 80s child. I'm a baby of the 80s, and I'm a teenager. I was a teenager in the 90s. So what that means is that I am one of the last generation on this planet to remember life before the internet. Think about that. There's not many of us left, or there are some of us left. So yeah, the first 15 years of my life, I did not have access to screens, the internet, none of that was in my life. I remember things like writing letters, using paper and pen. I remember talking to my friends every night on my landline at my parents' house. I remember, doing research in college in the library using actual books. There was no, web surfing, actually going to the library, looking at the books. And I remember listening to music. I would listen to entire albums on my cassette player, like a whole album all the way through, no kidding. And then on my CD player, and then on my mini disc player. So I think that having grown up with that experience, this might be one of the reasons why I personally often feel very, very uneasy about how I use the internet and how I navigate digital media in my life. I don't think I'm alone. I think lots of us feel this way. Lots of us have concerns about our online behavior. If you've ever tried to cut down or reduce or even completely stop using the internet, you'll know, and I've tried this many times, it's actually really, really hard. It's really not easy. Have you ever tried to cut down Facebook and just, stop checking? It can be very compulsive, checking all of our social media. The online world tempts us every day into a never-ending loop of engagement. We could be online all the time. We are constantly surrounded by electronic noise. So in the face of this, the question that many people, researchers and many of us are starting to kind of wonder is how is this impacting us? How is it impacting, our quality of life, our use of our time, our relationships? So this webinar is going to look at some of that. I hope that the things that we discussed today are going to be helpful for those of you who are, looking to have a healthier digital lifestyle and figure out how can you find that sweet balance between the time that you spend online and the time offline. So before we get going, I just want to talk about a couple of logistical things. On the right hand of your screen there, you're going to see a chat window. So you can write in questions to me. There is a 30-second delay in this webinar, so just so you know, there's a little bit of a time lag. Anything you type in, any questions are anonymous, so they will only be seen by me and the admin team here. What else can I tell you? Oh yeah, so you'll also see a poll there on the right. What is your favorite way to lose time on the internet? I invite you to write your answers in so that we can take a look at those results at the end. And finally, I encourage you to stay tuned. At the end of this webinar, which is going to be just over probably about half an hour, I'm going to show you a very, 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 very important demonstration. So stick around for that. Okay, so let's get rolling. Okay, hooked on the internet. How can we stay happy, focused, and productive in the age of digital distraction? So first, let's check out some goals for this webinar. The issues about internet and technology addiction. We're going to identify some common triggers and risk factors. We're going to understand how to recognize when your internet use is a problem. We will learn how overuse of the internet can impact your attention, your memory, your productivity, your relationships. And finally, we'll look at some practical strategies to see how you can reduce digital distraction, stay happy, focused, and productive, and find that balance between the time that you spend online and the time that you spend offline. So now a challenge. I have a challenge for you. My question is, how many browser tabs do you guys have open right now? Maybe you've got some Facebook up next to the webinar so you can dip in and out. My challenge is close down everything except the tab for this webinar. And I encourage you to give the webinar your full attention. Don't open any other websites, no surfing, and just give me your attention. And I promise you, if you focus on this for the next half an hour or so, you're really going to get the most out of the presentation. Okay, so does that sound stressful? Maybe? We'll see how it goes. So, what is internet addiction? Internet or technology addiction refers to excessive use of digital media to the point that it negatively affects a person's real-life relationships, their career, or their emotional health. The Center for Online Addiction breaks internet addiction down into 5 subtypes. Okay, so these are a little dry, but have a look and see if any of this applies to you. Okay, the first one, cybersexual addiction, which is compulsive use of adult websites for cyber sex and cyber porn. Then cyber relational addiction, which is over-involvement in online relationships. Net compulsions, this would be online gambling, shopping, or day trading. Information overload, this is compulsive web surfing or database searches. And finally, computer addiction, obsessive gaming, obsessive computer game playing. Now, any addiction is characterized by an inability to control how often or how intensely you engage in an activity, despite negative consequences in your life. It's characterized by urges and cravings, and by an inability to stop. There's still a lot of contention among research scientists about whether overuse of digital media can actually become an addiction. It's not agreed upon yet. But this is an evolving field, and the evidence base is really growing right now. Significantly, MRI research has shown that the brains of excessive internet users exhibit changes similar to those seen in people addicted to drugs and alcohol. A 2011 study showed that unplugging from their technology for just one day gave some users physical and mental withdrawal symptoms. So let's take a look at common triggers and risk factors. So let's be honest, we often reach for our screens out of things like laziness, boredom, habit. I know I do. Internet addiction can result from people using the web habitually as their primary reliever of financial, academic, work, or relationship stress. People might use the internet to procrastinate from unwanted responsibilities. Never done that. To distract themselves from problems or painful feelings, or to meet needs for companionship and belonging. And while anyone who uses the internet may be at risk from problematic or addictive use, certain people are especially vulnerable. These are going to include folks who are stressed, depressed, or anxious, people suffering from another addiction or maybe an impulse control disorder, And those folks who lack social support or mobility, so maybe, new parent who's stuck at home with a new baby, or someone who's had health issues and can't get out of the house and there's not much to do. And another group who are at risk are adolescents. So this makes sense. We know that, the neocortex, which is the part of the brain that is your executive controller, as it were, responsible for reasoning and rational decisions. The neocortex isn't even fully developed until your late 20s and sometimes even your early 30s. So it does make sense that adolescents are really vulnerable at anything that has to do with impulse control. So that is going to get personal now. How can you tell if your own internet use is a problem? People often wonder if there's like a set number of hours spent online that can add up to a problem. But really, that's like trying to diagnose alcoholism by the number of drinks a person has. We really can't quantify internet addiction in this way. Instead, we need to look at a certain set of behaviors. Dr. Kimberly Young developed the first screening measure for diagnosing internet addiction. It's called the Internet Addiction Diagnostic Questionnaire, and it's got 8 questions. It's kind of dry, but I'm going to go through it because I think it's really important, and I want you to just have a look and see if anything in this speaks to you. Do you feel preoccupied with the internet? Do you use the internet for increasing amounts of time in order to achieve satisfaction? Have you repeatedly made unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back, or stop your internet use? Do you feel restless, moody, depressed, or irritable when attempting to cut down or stop your internet use? Do you stay online longer than originally intended? Do the minutes turn to hours? Do the hours turn to days? Have you risked the loss of a significant relationship, educational, or career opportunity because of the internet? Have you lied to people to conceal the extent of your internet use? And finally, do you use the internet as a way of escaping from problems or of relieving feelings of helplessness, guilt, anxiety, or depression? So we may all see something of ourselves in this list. I think that's normal. It's like when you see any list of diagnostic criteria and immediately you're like convinced that you have the disorder. But seriously, if you answered yes to maybe 4 or 5 of these questions, it would be really important for you to re-examine your internet use, especially if you've noticed any of the following physical symptoms. Carpal tunnel syndrome. This is pain and numbness, sometimes a burning in the hands, and it can radiate all the way up the wrists and the elbows and even up to your shoulders. Dry eyes or strained vision, neck and back aches, severe headaches, weight gain or weight loss, and trouble sleeping or fatigue. So we've talked a little bit about how overuse of the internet and your technology can affect your body. Nicholas Carr writes about the impact of the internet on our brain. He says, the internet is an interruption system. It seizes our attention only to scramble it. Frequent interruptions scatter our thoughts, weaken our memory, and make us tense and anxious. Doesn't sound too good, does it? And in the era of online communication and connection, these interruptions come in the form of updates and notifications and alerts and beeps and vibrations from our technology, and they're coming at us 24 hours a day, basically. So let's have a look at how the internet affects our focus and attention with all this digital distraction. Dr. Larry Rosen presented these figures from the Statistic Brain in the 2014 Wisdom 2.0 conference, and I think they're a fun snapshot of how truly hard it is for us to maintain our focus in the age of the internet. So, the average person's attention span is 8 seconds. So basically, if you're still with me, congratulations. A goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. Kind of worrying, right? The average number of times an office worker checks their inbox 30 times per hour. So with all these digital interruptions, email, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, the Huffington Post, whatever your thing is, what is actually happening in terms of our ability to focus, to attend, and be productive? Let's look at this research study. So this is researchers in Michigan testing 300 students on their ability to work through a very brief interruptions while they're taking a computer test. So these interruptions were like little pop-ups that required the students to enter a code. So when there was a 2.8 second interruption, students who went back to the test made double the errors. And when the interruption was slightly longer, 4.4 seconds, the error rate quadrupled. So hypothetically, for example, when I'm trying to focus on an important task, maybe like preparing this webinar, and I'm taking just like a cheeky little peek at Facebook as I work on it, like even a 2.8 second check of my news feed, that interruption is going to seriously scatter my attention, leading to mistakes and, you know, possibly subpar work. So all I can say is thank goodness I wasn't checking Facebook when I prepared this webinar. I was completely focused. So let's move on to how the internet affects our memory. I like this quote from Tony Schwartz, who writes for the New York Times. Endless access to new information easily overloads our working memory. When we reach cognitive overload, our ability to transfer learning to long-term memory significantly deteriorates. It's as if our brain has become a full cup of water, and anything more poured into it starts to spill out. So it's not surprising that excessive internet users are going to have more memory problems. A 2009 Stanford study found that the brains of people who are exposed to multiple streams of digital information at once, which is really all of us, may find it more difficult to focus and switch between tasks efficiently. They get slowed down because they're unable to filter out what's not relevant to their goal. So this is like the idea of the full cup of water. There's just too much. In a 2011 experiment, college students were found to remember less information when they knew they could access it later on the computer. So these days, 49% of Americans have Google on their smartphones. So really we're relying on Google rather than on our own amazing brains to store knowledge long term. And the more we use Google to discover the information, the less likely we're really able to retain it in our long-term memory. Now, our brains use information stored in our long-term memory to engage in critical thinking and to understand and make meaning of the world around us. So if we rely on the internet to store our knowledge completely, we just keep checking Google, we actually risk losing a fundamental part of who we are, how we remember, and how we think. So on to how the internet affects our mood. I'm sure this isn't news to you, but newsflash, Facebook can make you feel lonely, frustrated, and angry. Recent research by German scientists suggests that constantly viewing images of others, I like to call it the highlights reel, or like the greatest hits of their life, their vacation photos, their personal achievements, their pictures of their really cute puppy, all this stuff can trigger strong feelings of envy and even sadness. Researchers actually are now calling this phenomenon Facebook depression. And I'm not going to lie, I think I've suffered from this occasionally. So social media can also make us anxious. Some people find it very, very difficult to tolerate time without using their digital media. And I'm thinking of all you guys out there trying to do the challenge I set, and I'm wondering how it's going for you. Are you focused? Here are some more statistics from my friend Dr. Larry Rosen. 67% of teens and young adults check their smartphones every 15 minutes. Half of those get anxious if they can't check. And 75% of teens and young adults, probably to alleviate that anxiety, sleep with their phone ringer on or set to vibrate. Now, there's a physiotherapist in New Zealand who has identified this posture, and it's called the eye hunch. It's also sometimes called text neck. You can't see me right now, I don't think, but I'm rocking the eye hunch right now. Studies have shown that people with clinical depression adopt a posture that is very close to the eye hunch. We slouch like that when we feel sad or scared or powerless. And the important thing to realize here is that while emotional states are reflected in posture, posture can also actually induce emotional states. So while an upright posture can really contribute to us feeling more assertive and productive and happy and self-confident, being hunched over our technology in the way that we are all day long is really likely to negatively affect our mood and our behavior. So finally, moving on to how does the internet affect our relationships? Okay. A 2014 Pew Research study reported that 42% of 18 to 29-year-olds say their partner is distracted by their cell phone. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. In 2010, a University of Michigan team found a 40% decline in empathy among college students after the year 2000. So bear in mind that the World Wide Web went live in 1991. And so this was a longitudinal study over, gathering data over 30 years. And so since 2000, it seems that the advent of the internet had a real impact. And finally, studies of conversation show that the presence of a phone on a table between two people when they're chatting changes both what they talk about and the degree of connection they feel. People are more likely to keep the conversation on really superficial topics where they won't mind being interrupted and they don't feel as invested in each other. So while I'm sure we've all experienced that kind of frustration and disconnection when we're sat there chatting to a friend and they're constantly checking text or emails. But it's kind of fascinating to me to think that even the presence of a silent, untouched phone on the table can really disengage us from each other. So now let's talk about how to consciously manage how we engage with our digital media. We've heard all of the, potentially negative effects. We're not villainizing the internet and technology. We're just taking a look and taking seriously some of the impact that it can have. So I know one or two people who deal with this by just not being on the internet. They're not on social media. They're just not engaged in that. But for most of us, quitting the internet wouldn't work. Many of us would lose our job if we tried to do that. So while the internet isn't going anywhere, we do need to regain control of our ability to focus and pay attention. And that means finding the best possible balance between the time we spend online and the time that we're offline. So firstly, let's look at the disconnect to reconnect principle. I like this. Significant time spent offline can be deeply, deeply restorative. Unplugging, even for one day, can make you feel better with renewed energy and time. So how do we do this? Okay, so first we can carve out spaces in the home that are device-free. Maybe you're going to make a commitment to leaving digital devices out of the bedroom, for example. If you live with your family, and this could be, your urban family, your family of choice, your roommates. You can agree to tech-free family time. No devices at dinner, in the kitchen, in the car. How about thinking about a digital de-tech period? Maybe really going for it. How about a 24-hour digital detox when you're not online at all, no technology? And if you're feeling super ambitious, you could think about one digital-free vacation or staycation per year. So think about that, a whole week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks if you're super lucky, off your technology. How would that be? So I like, you can see on the screen, the digital diet. This is Dr. Young again, and I like this idea. So we're going to move forward with some practical tips to help you with moderated, sustainable, and positive use of technology on a daily basis. What can we do? So we can set reasonable internet time limits and stick to them. We can take frequent breaks, at least 5 minutes each hour, and do another activity. How about turning off all your technology by a certain time each night without fail? Pick a time, 9 o'clock. It's all off. alter your routine to break your usage patterns. So if you're the kind of person that kind of spends a lot of time in the evening on the internet, start switching it up. Limit your use to the mornings. Try something new. And finally, you want to think about treating the internet as a means to an end. Plan your strategy. Whether you're looking for information or you want entertainment, keep a specific goal in mind. Now, a good diet doesn't just focus on restriction. It also focuses on what should we add in to our daily routine. As well as reducing your internet use, your technology use, you also want to think about opening up portions of your day for activity and interaction, for working, conversing, thinking, playing, all that lovely old school stuff I used to do in the 80s and 90s. And you want to do all this without the interruption of screens. So ask yourself, what am I missing out on when I spend so much time online? What could I be doing that would feel more satisfying or relaxing or productive? Write these activities down. Write them down. And I've got some ideas that I wrote down to start us off. So replace online activities with real-world actions. Museums, bookstores, live music, theater. We're in New York City, whatever your thing, get out there and get going. Many people get hooked on the internet through forming connections with people online. This is where their relationships are. So you'll really want to spend time socializing with people face-to-face, in real time, live. If you're feeling socially isolated, you don't have those friends, think about joining a club or attending a class. A great way to meet people is to engage in an activity together that you repeat weekly. And finally, if you suspect that there's something going on, there's something deeper maybe, that's driving you to spend a lot of time on the internet, I think it's important to get assessed by a mental health provider. Just to check out any underlying mental health issues, like maybe depression or anxiety, ADHD, see if there's something else going on. So how about some concrete tips for staying happy and focused and productive? Yes. So Dr. Rosen talks about the need for us to recognize when our brain has become overloaded with all these streams of information and practice activities that have been proven to reset and calm the brain. So how do you reset your brain? All of the ways that you can reset your brain are very nice and relaxing, so I think you're going to enjoy them. Meditation and mindfulness, of course. Walking outside in nature, even for 5 minutes, calms your brain. Listening to music, looking at art, calm your brain. Exercise, a great thing to do to calm your brain. Laughing, right? Laughing. Taking a hot bath. Maybe laughing in the bath. Calm your brain. Talking to a friend, as long as this is live. You want to be talking to them live on the phone or in person. Reading a book. This is a great focus building practice. Have you read a book lately? Have you found it hard to keep your concentration on the page? Think about it. We need to practice. Practicing a foreign language, that's a bit more ambitious. Or how about playing a musical instrument? All these things are activities that reset and calm your brain. I would suggest trying to stay focused on one of these for 5 to 10 minutes at a time, maybe every couple of hours. So we've talked a lot about how digital distraction cause us to multitask, right? That's basically what we're doing when we're trying to do something and we're checking all the technology. So now I want to end with an alternative to multitasking, which is, a proven recipe we've seen for inefficiency and mistakes. So what do? It's called single tasking. So single tasking, think of this as like the next big thing after the internet. Single tasking supports focus, clarity, and engagement. Single tasking means doing one activity at a time with as few distractions and interruptions as possible, and that means digital distractions. And it means completing each task fully before moving on to the next one. And when you need to get something really important done, you want to focus on a single task for about 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break to reset your brain. So less clutter equals more focus. And we're going to end with some tips on how to minimize your digital distraction to support this activity of this concept of single tasking. What are you going to do? You're going to switch off your phone, close your email, turn off notifications. I don't know if you know about this, but I didn't. Apparently there's a do not disturb feature on the iPhone. You can set it to do not disturb you, and you'll receive calls only from designated people, or you'll get a signal when someone's calling you over and over again. It's kind of interesting. You can install software that blocks out distracting websites like Facebook for a set amount of time. Some of them are antisocial, freedom, self-control. These are some popular ones. For Mac users, you can actually create a completely new desktop that's free from distractions. So you can have one desktop with your work tasks on it and then put all the distracting stuff on a whole other desktop. So I haven't tried this, but apparently you press F4, you hover your mouse near the top of the screen, you click on the plus sign that appears in the top right corner, and there you go, you've got your new desktop. Finally, think about decluttering by deleting all the files from your desktop at the end of the day. Just clean that out, simplify. And finally, think about practicing single tab browsing. This is only one tab open at a time. And this is what I tricked you into doing when I set the challenge at the beginning of the webinar, because if you've managed to focus on this webinar, then hopefully you've been practicing single tab browsing. So remember, you're more likely to succeed at any changes to your behavior if you change just one thing at a time. So just start small, maybe just start with single tab browsing and see and go from there. So according to the author Michael Harris, technology is neither good nor evil. The most we can say about it is that it has come. Computers and virtual connections are now a really key part of our daily life. Unplugging permanently and expecting to carry on functioning really may not be realistic now. But we do face a significant choice. It's not about giving up our devices completely, but it is about using them with greater awareness and intention. And I really hope that this webinar today has been useful in giving you some good ideas on how to do just that. And if any of you were able to focus on me for this entire time without surfing the web, congratulations, because it looks like you're on your way. So up on your screen now, I'm going to put up some resources. You'll notice that here at My Therapy NYC, we've got a monthly meditation group that you might want to get involved in. It's held on the second Saturday of every month. Go to our website if you want to sign up for that. These are some books, and then we've got some apps. These are some of the apps that will help you with blocking distracting websites. And then we've also got some time management apps. Okay, so let's go to our poll. The question was, what is your favorite way to lose time on the internet? So let's check out our results. Let's see. So 63% of you said that you use Facebook or other social media, and that's kind of your go-to way to lose yourself on the internet. Then we've got, let's see, none of you use tabloid or gossip sites. Very good. Oh, sorry, 25% of you use tabloid or gossip sites. That makes more sense to me. I was kind of like, wow, you guys are good. No one's into sports and entertainment. No one's into music. 13% of you said that you are using porn and erotica sites, and that's your go-to. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So I want to set another quick challenge. However you tend to lose time on the internet, like now that you've identified, your hotspot, your favorite way to do it, I encourage you to have a go at that digital detox, okay? See if you can take a break from that activity for a full 24 hours, and just test yourself and see how that feels. Okay, so now we're going to go, I think, to our Q&A. I'm just going to take a look and see who has posed some questions. Hi, everyone, I'm back. So Melissa is asking, could you please post the resource list? Yes, we will get onto that. We'll do that tomorrow, Melissa, for you. And let's see, we've got another question from Amy, and Amy's asking, can you let me know of some more of the the apps that you can use to block distracting websites? That's actually, Amy, in the list of resources, there is a full list of those apps. Personally, I use one called Self-Control, which is great. You can block out websites for a set amount of time. I would say to everyone, be really careful when you use these apps because they're hardcore. Like, they will block you out of whatever you've chosen. And sometimes things that you didn't choose. I once got blocked out for 3 days from Netflix, and it was really upsetting to me. So just pick and choose what you're blocking. And then let's see, we've got Ryan who's asking, how do I help a friend who I think might be struggling with a gaming addiction? Okay, so that's a really good question. Let's see, well, I would perhaps start with, trying to engage your friend around this topic, try and have a chat with them, maybe reflect the behavior that's concerning you a little bit to them. You could let them know that you've learned some information about how gaming can be addictive and some of the problems associated, and that you're concerned. I would really try not to be judgmental. I try and really communicate you're caring for your friend and be very calm and neutral. And then maybe show them this webinar. Maybe go back to the diagnostic tool that I showed you with all the questions, and maybe share some of this information with your friend, and let them see if there's anything in there that they relate to, and that might be a good place to start. Okay, let me see if there's any more questions. I don't see any more. If there are some more questions, I will respond to you by email so that you'll definitely get an answer very soon. Okay. So this is just the information, My Therapy NYC. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this webinar. I hope it was helpful. You can visit our website, mytherapynyc.com, to learn all about our practice, all about the wonderful, talented therapists that we have here. You can sign up for future webinars. You can read all our blog posts, sign up for our meditation group, and check out other workshops that we'll be doing along the way. So yeah, thank you for joining me. It's been fun, and I hope it's been helpful. So I promised you a demonstration at the end, and if you're still with me and you've focused, well done. I'm going to demonstrate a very, very quick, simple way that you can immediately reduce your internet time. Okay, this is something that anybody can do at any time. It's very quick, very easy, but I guarantee it's going to make a difference. Okay, so watch carefully. This is how you log off from your computer.